Okay, now we're continuing with Huey Lawrence because our friend Clay went out to be with the other people because we've got a simultaneous video going on here. And Clay had mentioned when it was that you decided to join the group, Huey, so you can start off from there.
All right. The logo I used was given to me when I joined the band was Pipcorn. Where that came from, I can't say, but that was it. And it's hung with me up until to this day. Well, my first experience with the beginning of the B-1 Navy band was on the campus of A&T College at that particular time, which I distinctly remember it was around March, the month of March. It was that spring quarter.
1942.
1942, right after Pearl Harbor. And there's a lot of scuttlebutt, that's another name for talk, gossip, about there's a Navy man on campus looking for some musicians. And that particular time, as I said, I joined the college band under the direction of Mr. Bernard Mason, a very, very astute musical director. And I was playing in the trumpet section. I think it was about second trumpet, yes, because we had 3 or 4 guys that had been there for almost 4 years. His first year, man, was Walter F. Carson, natural-born trumpet player. I believe he was born with a trumpet in his mouth. Then we had another guy next to him, Siler, Royland Siler, out of Newport News, trumpet player, excellency. And the other fellow was Willie Curry, fell out of Red Springs, I think it was, yes, North Carolina. They were the hot shots of that trumpet section.
Now, Clay played reeds, right?
Yeah, Clay played clarinet. He was a reed man. But that trumpet section was pretty strong. And I listened to them play the lead parts. I'd already been over those songs that they had played, with the exception of some concert music, such as the Student Prince and March Heroic and things of that nature. And as I said, listening to the scuttlebutt, I decided to check it out. So I went down and I spoke to Mr. Mason. He said, yeah, I said, they're trying to get some fellows to join this new Navy band, which they will be stationed in North Carolina. He didn't say where, in North Carolina. And he gave me a date for tryouts, and he said that you're going to have to be able to sight read music. I said, okay. So I thought about it, because I had a 4-year scholarship guaranteed, and also I was in the ROTC, which was intriguing to me. And after thinking about it, I said, I'll go ahead and try it, just see what happened. So I got on my Arbin book and went over a few things to kind of brushing up. And so when they called for tryouts, I went down. And the number that they threw on us, the trumpets I know, on most of the guys, was Anchors Away, the original standard arrangement, not this broken down thing. It was the original standard with the introduction, first and second strain, you had the first and second in, and then in the trio, in the vamp and so forth. And lo and behold, this is a duck suit. I thought they were really going to throw something on, something like triple tonguing or double tonguing or that type thing. So I thought no more about it. But about a few days later, Mr. Mason read out the fellows that had passed, the musical test. My name was there. So I was only 19 years old, and so I had to call home to my parent to see if I could enlist. So they'd have to sign. Mother said, no way, not the Navy, no. So I kept begging, so she finally consented, so I sent her the paper. she signed. My coach told me, go ahead and sign. It's always football. This is once in a lifetime. The war is on. You'll know where you'll be stationed. You'll be doing something you like. Because I had previous music experience in high school, but mostly the street bands. That means the Masonic bands in the city had bands, and the Elks had bands that they used for their ceremonies and parades. Plus, experience in the nightclubs, that is gigging. You call it, now you call it jamming or something, then you call it gigging. That means guys come together and they flow what they feel. And just keep it going. One guy gets tired, another fella jumps in. And going back to the Navy, I had to go get a physical. They gave us a physical. And then they gave us standardized intelligence tests. And also a test to test our, not moral character, but our reactions to certain things that we might face. Or are we going to fight? Are we going to tolerate? Or how are we going to react? And I began to get the gist of what was happening. Now this band that was being formed from these universities or colleges and from Dudley High School under the direction of James B. Parsons Jr. and also Central. And I think we had one or two from Johnson C. Smith in Charlotte. Were going to be the nucleus of pioneering, breaking not only the racial barrier in the Navy, but the acceptance of the community in which they would be stationed. And for us, it was Chapel Hill.
Right.
Now, after we were finalized on our testing and health and so forth, we were given a reprieve. We had April to think about it. If you didn't want to go, you had a chance to get out. But most of us stuck. And in May, we were ordered to report to Raleigh, North Carolina, the capital, in which all of us, all 44 of us, no, couldn't have been 44 because that's Walter Carlson and his brother. They made up the complement of 44. So then it had to have been 42 of us met in Raleigh. And 42 of us boarded the train and proceeded to Norfolk, Virginia, training station, and we were deported down to the old Unit 1 training base where they trained the messmen. We call them messmen. That was their, no rank or anything, messmen. Because there was nowhere else to send us. They couldn't send us to D.C. because they said, no, we've never had this before. And we're not going to accept these fellas in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, the home of democracy.
Right.
Refused in time of war to accept 42 innocent, non-combatant musicians to train for X number of weeks, you see, to report to Chapel Hill. So we were stuck there in Norfolk, in which we stayed well over the training period because we had two chiefs. The first chief who enlisted us was Chief Dudrow. He was a retired chief. He had been in the service about 24 years because he had 5 stripes, I think, or so on his sleeve. And they assigned another chief to us to really hone us down. I can't think of his name. He played baritone horn. But he was in charge of honing us in cadence marching, blowing, and to blend the tones as to ceremonial procedures.
Was that McPherson?
I couldn't think of that man's name to save my life, because the only time we saw him was when he would come and instructors.
Mm-hmm.
See, Parsons took the instructions from him. That was our leader, James B. Parsons Jr.
Mm-hmm.
He was a structuralist. He was very good at marching, you know, protocol, everything had to be in step, you look good, so forth. But anyway, we played around North with different occasions, the band, and before we broke camp, Carlson and his brother John Carlson, who played trombone, reported to us from Tuskegee Airmen. I don't know what happened, but they, I don't think, passed a certain requirement, you know, with the unit, because they were pilots before they joined Tuskegee.
Mm-hmm.
So they joined us, which added 2 more, which made 44 in all. So there we had 44 musicians. And in the month of August, I can't give you the exact date, it was around about the middle of August, we had orders to pack up, we were moving out, going to Chapel Hill. And we boarded the bus back to the train station and in train back to Durham, where we got off and a couple of naval buses were waiting on us. They boarded the men on the bus and put our baggages on the other bus, or sea bags. You don't call them baggages, call them sea bags. And we proceeded to the little village or town of Chapel Hill. I had never been there. And some of the fellows who lived or had lived in Durham had been to Chapel Hill. They knew about it, but most of us had never been there. And the buses roll on to the campus. The United States Navy had, I guess, leased a dormitory as a flagship. It was set up the same as an aboard ship. Officers were there for officers, and non-commissioned officers had their officers there. And the flagpole there was the same as on the ship. And we disembarked, got off, got our bags off, and the whistle blew. All right, line up. James B. Morgan was our band, not leader, how can I say it, our drum major. That's right, drum major, Morgan. Line up, get your instruments, prepare to march. The fellas got their instruments. Everybody got warmed up, tuned up, got the music. And so Parsons walked down the line and said, now men, he didn't say me, he said mon. That we were going through town, I want everybody straight ahead, no sideways looking, in step, looking good. And so he blew the whistle again, so he did his baton up and pointed it, and we straight. I can't even think of the name of the little street that runs through the campus. But we turned that corner, it's like spokes on a wheel. And down through the campus we went, and got down to the main street. At that time, I didn't know the name of the street, but I understand it was Franklin Street. And we hit that corner of Franklin Street, but as we were going through the campus, some students were still on the campus, and before you got to them, you could see curtains pulling back and see eyes looking from, out the window, and people stop, look and see what's going on.
You literally stopped traffic.
Huh?
You literally stopped traffic.
Yeah. Or the cop was down there waiting, you see. His old raggedy car. We hit Franklin Street, turned that corner, and everybody was in step. He raised that baton and said, sound off. I can't think of the numbers. I think we played Ankles Away or something. I believe that's what it was. I can't think of the name of the tune. Anyway, we started. And naturally, coming between the buildings there, on one side of the street, there were, stores and places. On the other side of the street There were a few, Bill, but not, I don't think as many as there are now. But people lined up as though it was a parade. Now, some of the fellows claimed that people threw pebbles or stones at them and spat on them and, you know, kind of mimicking them, I guess calling them foul names and so forth. But blowing that trumpet, I paid no attention because my concentration was on what I was there to do, because I loved to play, you see. And I didn't feel any stone on me, anybody spitting on me. But that was the thing. If that happened, you take it. You don't flare out or talk back and so forth. But when we passed, made the intersection across the street, what is it? I can't think of that street, and headed down toward Carborough. The crowd thinned out. But I could hear this, you see. That wasn't just from, at that time, they weren't called black. See, now where I come from, we call them colored people, you see.
Yeah.
They applauded, and some of the other folks applauded. And when we got up to where we were to turn and go down to the building where we were billeted to stay, we had made a hit with the community in that they said, hey, I think these fellows are going to be okay. They sound good, they look good, and most of all, they weren't smart alecky. See, they didn't try to retaliate and so forth. And we got there and dismissed. And the next step was to go inside